Hello music fans, welcome to the Death by Unicorn channel, to another episode of What's New 2023, where I talk about new albums that came out in metal, rock, and prog. This week I'm going to talk about 7 new albums that I listened to that came out on Friday, September 15th, and it was a really great week. 4 of these albums are contenders for my top 100 of the year, so let's jump right in with my favorite of the week, which is Tesseract and their album War of Being. This is their 5th album. This is progressive metal of the gent variety. They're from the UK, and they're one of the bands who popularized gent along with Periphery and Animals as leaders after the style was started with Meshuggah and Sixth. They're currently in my top 10 favorite bands of all time. I knew I was going to enjoy this. I like all of their albums, so I was really anticipating this release. I have my physical copy in the mail. Hopefully I'll get it soon. And as expected, they delivered another banger of an album here. It's probably in my top 5 albums of the year so far. I do need some more listens to determine how I'd rank it amongst the rest of their catalog. That's a very difficult task because their first 2 albums, One and Altered State, both really blew my mind, and I still love them to this day, with Altered State being my favorite of theirs. The vocals here on War of Being by Daniel Tompkins are just excellent, though. He took it up a notch. He was already amazing before, but he has such a great mix of harsh vocals and clean singing that really matches the mixture of the heavy, genty guitar riffs and the ambient, atmospheric guitar parts on here as well. Check this out if you want to hear what Meshuggah could sound like if they had beautiful melodic vocals and atmospheric ambient passages. Also, if you're a fan of Periphery and The Contortionist, I think you'll like this. Next up, let's talk about Baroness and their album Stone. This is progressive sludge metal. It's got some indie, alternative, psychedelic, and hard rock influences in there as well. And this is their 6th album. They're an American band. I think this is their best album yet, just from my first couple of listens to it, but I've liked all their other albums as well. But I feel this one has more variety over their previous releases. It's got mostly clean singing vocals. A lot of the vocals have that typical Baroness vocal sound where they're almost always harmonizing, kind of like how Alice in Chains does, or how Intronaut does in their clean vocal sections. A lot of the guitar playing has this progressive sludge metal or post-metal vibe to it for fans of the riffing styles of Mastodon and The Ocean, but they also have some softer moments that lean more into indie rock, ambient, and post-rock territory. And they have some psychedelic stoner doom vibes on here too. Check it out if that all sounds appealing to you. Third album that I want to talk about that came out on September 15th is Molybaron and their album Something Ominous. This is, I guess it's progressive metal as well. It's got a bit of like alternative influence, a bit of progressive rock influence. It's the 3rd album by this French band. Their lyrics are in English. They've got catchy melodies and choruses, but they sometimes go into the cerebral territory and progressive territory. So it's kind of like catchy choruses like Linkin Park almost, but then meeting with the cerebral progressive qualities of Tool. If you're a fan of a band like Soen, who they're touring with, I think you'll like this. It also kind of reminds me of them, as well as The Kindred, who's a Canadian band that I really like, who I think is mostly disbanded or inactive at this point, but they were formerly known as Today I Caught the Plague, and they're a great band. The riffing here kind of reminds me of The Kindred, but they've got powerful vocals like Devin Townsend, or another great band who released an album earlier this year, Nospin. The vocals there are similarly powerful as on here. Something Ominous is a great opening track with the awesome main guitar riff, great vocals, great guitar solo, and the whole album follows it up with consistent quality. And lastly, to round out these top 4 that are likely to make my top 100 albums of the year, I want to bring up the Chronicles of Father Robin and their album The Songs and Tales of Airoea. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's spelled Airoea. And this is just book 1 of 3. They've released a triple album. I think the physical copy of the triple album is already available, but only the first book of the 3 is available on streaming so far. And this is a debut album by this Norwegian progressive supergroup. Very ambitious for them to release a triple album as their debut album. But these are people who are experienced musicians in other bands. Wobbler is one of the bands that has some of their members in this supergroup, and I really love Wobbler. So if you're a fan of Wobbler, check this out. Also, if you're a fan of Yes, King Crimson, and Jethro Tull, I think you'll like this. It has some of that folky, medieval sounding vibes from time to time, like Jethro Tull and Gentle Giant. They feature a decent amount of flute. They have lots of parts that sound like Yes. So check that out if this sounds appealing. And next I want to get into 3 more albums that aren't quite going to make my top 100 of the year, but are still worth checking out if they sound interesting to you. One of them is Resolve and their album Human. This is post-hardcore with melodic metalcore influences. It's the second album by this French band. Has lots of cool riffs, time signature changes, emotional vocals with screaming and clean singing. And another one is Corey Taylor and his album CMF2. This is kind of a hard rock album with a lot of metal influences in there. It's the second solo album from the lead singer of Slipknot. Great performances. There's quite a mixed bag of songs on here with different styles that vary in quality. I like some of the songs, but others I could do without. And last album I'm going to mention today is Danko Jones and his album. I guess they're a power trio. Their album Electric Sounds. It's kind of a hard rock alternative with alternative blues, punk, and metal all kind of combined. It's the 12th album by this Canadian band. I've seen them live and they're a fun band to see. The lyrics here are a little cheesy and juvenile, which is kind of funny as I think the band members are getting up there in age, but it sounds like they're a bunch of teenagers writing the lyrics. And but it is kind of not supposed to be taken too seriously. It's not like intelligent music. It's more like fun party music, but it's got a good fun vibe to it. This album reminds me more of pop punk bands rather than hard rock bands like some of their other work. They've always kind of blended that hard bluesy rock of Led Zeppelin with punk rock energy and poppy hooks. I do enjoy it while it's on, but I probably won't visit it too much. And that's it for my thoughts on these 7 new albums that came out on Friday, September 15th. What do you think of these? And was there anything else interesting that came out recently that you think I should check out? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, peace out.